This is KTUL TV, Tulsa's Channel 8 at 10. Tonight's news starts now.
We know enough to say that this was an act of terror and an act of hate.
They heard about 20 shots.
Get out of here.
Oh my God.
My son hasn't been heard from, so I don't know if he was left in the club, if he got shot.
It was just like a scene from a horror movie.
I think we have to continue to explain to people this is the new face of the war on terror.
The most important thing we can do right now is pray for everybody.
Thank you for joining us tonight. This is a night for all of us to hug our loved ones a little tighter, a night when we're all still trying to make sense of yet another mass shooting. What happened in Orlando is every city's worst nightmare because we know that it could happen to us. Tulsa is showing that it cares with candles and prayers. Channel 8's Franque Thompson attended a vigil downtown tonight at Club Majestic. And Frankie, just explain the mood there and the meaning of this vigil.
Well, Kim, a very somber moment just wrapped up right across the street from us at the Guthrie Green. Hundreds of people had candles standing in silence to reflect on everyone involved in that Orlando shooting. Earlier tonight, they were all inside the Majestic nightclub here in downtown Tulsa, celebrating their lives and celebrating each other, showing love and support despite their differences.
It's this safe space hundreds of people gather to show their support for the LGBT community. Though Majestic is filled with energy, they meet because of tragedy.
We were both shocked. We just sat. We've been sitting in our house and it's just been so quiet.
The silence is for the 50 people killed at a nightclub in Orlando. Pulse was known to frequent people in the LGBT community, just like the Tulsa club that has been downtown for decades.
Places like Majestic and the place that they were at, Pulse, like those are safe havens for us. Those are places where we are free to go and be like open and we're able to be who we are and be who, you know, without any repercussions. And that's been taken away from us.
The shooter pledged allegiance to ISIS during the attack. Directors of the vigil say this is not the first time the LGBT community has seen acts of terror.
You wish bad against us and you want to harm us, that is when your religion is of the devil, it is not from God. And so we condemn that kind of religious extremism that says that it's appropriate and you're God's servant when you harm and hurt people.
Despite their disbelief of the attack, this crowd says they won't let hate stop them from showing love.
When we come together and build community is when we're our strongest. And so there's only one answer, and that is for us to continue to build community until we shut them out and shut them down.
When this goes down and is in the history books, it's not going to be about what the shooter accomplished. It's going to be about the people who came out to candlelight vigils and the people who stood together in solidarity. And this is a beautiful thing.
Now, the directors of the Oklahomans for Equality tell me they work very closely with the Equality Center in Orlando. If you check out their page online, the Oklahomans for Equality, they do have resources that they're providing for the Equality Center in Orlando to help out with this situation. Reporting live in downtown Tulsa, Franque Thompson, Tulsa's Channel 8.
Frankie, thank you. The Tulsa Police Department issued a statement on the shootings this morning. They say they are horrified by the events last night, and their thoughts and prayers go out to the victims and their families. They go on to say they are taking precautions to ensure the safety of our LGBT community and the public in general. To read their full statement, you can head over to our website, KTUL.com.
It's hard to fathom. Every time these happen, no matter where it happens, it's just hard to understand the viciousness of people.
Tulsa Mayor Dewey Bartlett reacting to the news of the shootings this morning. Mayor Bartlett says he's been in contact with Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer to offer his support, saying Tulsans are standing by, ready to help those in need. And families continue to gather, pray, and to wait for any information about loved ones who were inside the Pulse nightclub last night. The shooting started around 2 this morning. At least 50 people were killed and more than 50 hospitalized when a gunman armed with an assault rifle, handgun, and potential explosive device opened fire on hundreds of people inside.
They can't identify anybody. So it could be hours and hours.
My son got shot 3 times.
Oh my God. Tonight, we are learning more about the gunman who pulled the trigger. He's identified as 29-year-old Omar Mateen. Law enforcement officials say that after the shooting began, that Mateen called 911 to pledge his allegiance to ISIS. The FBI interviewed him 3 times back in 2013 and 2014, but he was not deemed a threat. He is a U.S. citizen born to parents from Afghanistan. Authorities say he drove to Orlando from his home in Fort Pierce, Florida, armed with an assault weapon and a handgun, all of which were purchased legally. Tonight, we are also learning that Mateen was investigated for a possible tie to an American suicide bomber from Florida. Kathleen Walter has more.
The FBI today identifying the Orlando terror killer as Omar Mir Sadiq Mateen, a 29-year-old American citizen born in New York who lived in Florida. FBI agent Ron Hopper saying Mateen was twice investigated by the feds for ties to terrorism, but that both investigations were ultimately closed.
The FBI first became aware of Mateen in 2013 when he made inflammatory comments to coworkers alleging possible terrorist ties.
Mateen first came onto the FBI's radar in 2013, but despite interviewing Mateen and witnesses, conducting physical surveillance and records checks, the feds couldn't substantiate his comments and closed the investigation. This is video of Moner Mohammed Abu Salah, the first American suicide bomber in Syria in 2014. After the Florida man made headlines for the attack, Mateen became an FBI person of interest a second time for possible ties to the terrorist. It is believed both men attended the same mosque.
The FBI conducted an investigation, including an interview with Mateen. We determined that contact was minimal and did not constitute a substantive relationship or a threat at that time.
The feds then closed that investigation too.
Mateen's ex-wife also spoke out for the first time today, saying that he was struggling with mental illness. Situra Yusufi was married to Mateen for just 4 months before starting divorce proceedings in 2009. She said Mateen was bipolar, unstable, and abusive, and says she was devastated when she heard what happened in Orlando.
When he would get in his tempers, he would express hate toward things, toward everything. So in that respect, you know, yeah. But it was at the moments when you would see his emotional instability and turning totally different.
Yusufi says she stopped speaking to Mateen and his family for over 7 years and has had no connection to him anymore.
Let me be clear. We have no tolerance for extremism of any kind. We must not tolerate hateful rhetoric that incites violence against minorities. Religious freedom is the cornerstone of our beliefs as Muslims and as Americans.
The Council on American Islamic Relations is condemning the shooting at the Pulse nightclub. The Oklahoma chapter released a statement tonight offering their support to the LGBTQ community and prayers for the families of victims. One of CARE's missions is to inform and educate the community about the Muslim and Islamic beliefs. Local Imam John Ederer, who leads worship at the Islamic Society of Tulsa, says there's more to Islam than what people may realize.
Our religion is totally against vigilante acts of anything, and we do not, condone any sort of behavior where people are even bullying someone, much less murder them.
Ederer says it's important for people to understand the Muslim faith and beliefs just as any religion. He says the Islamic Society participates in interfaith work with other religious groups across the area, which strengthens their beliefs and understandings. In the hours after the shooting, a Texas state leader tweeted out a Bible verse that included "A man reaps what he sows." This drew lots of anger from around the country, including the leaders of an LGBT rights organization in the Texas Capitol. And a spokesman for Patrick released a statement saying, in part, Lieutenant Governor Patrick is stunned and saddened by the outrageous act of domestic terrorism and assured the post was not done in the response to the tragedy, but some say it was too little, too late.
That's where people who are the victims of discrimination or who have homophobia or transphobia in their lives, gay bars are where people go to get away from that.
Patrick deleted the tweet several hours later. We will continue to follow the latest developments in this story on air and online at KTUL.com. We also want to remind you of a special town hall taking place tomorrow at 6 p.m. on our website. Our sister station in Washington, D.C. will be discussing how America needs to prepare for the rise of terror. That's all taking place at KTUL.com tomorrow night starting at 6 o'clock.